You know, there's a specific kind of horror that really only exists in the Midwest. It's not about like Gothic castles or these sprawling haunted asylums.
No, not at all.
It's about distance. When you are standing in the middle of a field in Iowa and the nearest neighbor is a mile away and the horizon is just flat darkness, isolation isn't a bug in the system.
No, it's a feature. It's the entire point.
It's a feature, exactly. Today, we are looking at the source material from The Overnight Guest by Heather Gudenkauf, and specifically, we are looking at the town of Burden, Iowa.
And that name, right, Burden.
It feels a little on the nose, doesn't it?
It does, but it sets the stage perfectly for what we sometimes call environmental antagonism. Usually, in crime fiction or even true crime, the setting is just a backdrop. It's where the events happen.
Shift us the stage.
But in the documents we're analyzing today, the environment is, well, it's the primary weapon. We're looking at two distinct timelines that use weather to strip the characters of their agency completely.
Right, and they are two complete extremes. On one hand, you have August 12th, 2000.
Oppressive.
It's oppressive. The sources describe it as that sticky, humid Iowa summer heat where the air just smells like clover and manure. The kind of heat that makes people irritable, that shortens fuses.
And then you flash forward to the present day.
And it's a total whiteout blizzard. Sub-zero temperatures, ice coating the windows, total containment. You're not getting in, you're not getting out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that contrast is absolutely vital for understanding the psychology here. The heat, it exposes secrets. In that summer timeline, windows are open, sound carries for miles.
People are outside, they're watching each other.
They are. But the cold buries things. It literally deadens sound. It forces people inside into these little isolated boxes. And caught right in the middle of this meteorological warfare is our protagonist, Wiley Lark.
Let's talk about Wiley for a second, because on paper, she seems like the perfect person to handle this kind of situation.
You'd think so.
She's a true crime writer. She's written books about tragedies. She knows the patterns. She knows the signs. So why on earth does she put herself in this position? She has actively, knowingly sought out this specific farmhouse, the site of a notorious cold case, to isolate herself and finish her book.
It's a fascinating bit of hubris, actually. Wiley is suffering from what I'd call narrator bias.
Narrator bias? What do you mean?
She believes that because she writes the story, she is somehow outside of it. She views herself as an observer, a chronicler of other people's pain.
So she thinks she's safe behind the keyboard.
Precisely. She goes to the Doyle farmhouse thinking she can use the atmosphere, the darkness of the place to fuel her writing. But she fails to realize that by stepping into that house, she isn't the narrator anymore. She's a participant.
She becomes a character in the story.
She becomes the next chapter. She thinks the farmhouse is a sanctuary because she's the one holding the pen. But the house doesn't care who holds the pen.
That is a terrifying thought. The idea that you can study a monster for so long you forget it can still bite you.
And this house has teeth.
So let's look at the monster she's studying. We need to unpack the history of this place. We've got three converging threads here. The unsolved Doyle murders from that hot summer night in 2000.
A very, very disturbing diary-like narrative of a child held captive in a basement.
And then Wiley trapped in the present day. Let's start at the origin point. August 2000, the Doyle family.
This is where we see the breakdown of what you might call the rural social contract.
Yeah.
We have the parents, William and Lynn Doyle, and their two kids, 16-year-old Ethan and 12-year-old Josie.
On the surface, a standard agricultural family unit. They work the land, they live their lives.
But the sources highlight a fracture, a really deep one, specifically around the son, Ethan.
Ethan is described as spiraling. He's 16, he's angry, he's dating a girl named Cara Turner, which his parents absolutely hate. But, teenage rebellion is pretty standard stuff.
Sure.
Slamming doors and listening to loud music doesn't usually lead to a massacre. What makes this different?
It's the escalation. The escalation of aggression. It's not just moodiness. It's defiance that spills out into the public sphere where everyone can see it.
Hey.
There is a specific incident mentioned in the source material. Let's call it the precipitating event that happens in the yard earlier that same day.
You mean the fight over the shotgun?
Precisely. Ethan is furious because his father, William, has taken away his grandfather's shotgun. Now, you have to understand, in a rural hunting culture, removing a weapon like that is a symbolic castration.
It's a huge statement of distrust.
A massive one. But it's Ethan's reaction that really matters.
Yeah.
He and his father are arguing loudly in the front yard, and the neighbors are watching.
Specifically, Margot Allen and her daughter, Becky. They're right there.
They're right there. And Ethan screams at his father. He calls him a fucker.
Yeah.
Right out in the open air for God and everyone to hear.
We have to stop there because, today, or in a big city, that might just be a rude teenager blowing off steam. But in a polite, tight-knit, church-going rural community in the year 2000, that is a massive breach of the social contract.
It's a declaration of war.
Yeah.
You don't just insult your father. You humiliate him. You completely violate the established hierarchy in front of witnesses.
So the neighbors seeing this, that changes everything.
It biases the witness pool from the get-go. Margot Allen sees this public display and immediately categorizes Ethan as dangerous or out of control. It sets a narrative before the crime even happens.
So if something goes wrong later that night.
Everyone already has their prime suspect in mind.
Yeah.
Because they saw that public display of rage. The story is already half written.
And the tragedy is that while all this rage is simmering, you have these pockets of absolute innocence. You have Josie, William and Lynn's daughter, who is 12, and her best friend, Becky Allen Margot's daughter.
Right, they're having a sleepover.
They're having a sleepover.
Yeah.
The source text has this beautiful, heartbreaking description of them jumping on the trampoline, trying to grab a fistful of stars. It's such a pure image.
And that juxtaposition is completely intentional. It heightens the sense of tragedy, the sense of what's about to be lost. You have these two girls who are completely unaware of the tension boiling over just a few yards away. They are in their own world.
But we have to be careful not to get tunnel vision on Ethan, just like the town did. Because the girls encounter other threats that day.
They absolutely do. The suspect pool, as it were, isn't just Ethan.
Right, let's talk about the Cutter boys. Brock Cutter and his cousin Randy. The girls run into them at the pond earlier that day.
And this interaction it's deeply unsettling. Ethan actually takes the girls for some target practice, illicitly, I might add, with that very same shotgun.
After he's gotten it back, or taken it back.
Yes, and they run into Brock. Now, Brock Cutter represents a totally different kind of threat. If Ethan is rebellious rage, Brock is predatory entitlement. He's a different kind of monster.
There's that moment where Cutter helps Becky hold the shotgun. The text is very specific. It describes him pressing his hips into her back, his fingers creeping under her shirt.
It's pure sexual menace. It's a power play. He's using the weapon, the lesson, as a pretext to touch her, to dominate the space, to assert his power over her.
And it establishes that there are other predators in this community. It's not just about family drama. There are people who view these girls as prey.
Exactly. And then you have Jackson Henley at the scrapyard, the classic creepy recluse archetype who just stares at them.
Yeah, the quiet watcher.
And maybe most importantly, the white truck.
The white truck. Josie sees it twice, just driving slow along the gravel roads, kicking up dust.
And that's a classic element of rural horror, isn't it? The unknown observer. In a city, a slow car means someone's looking for parking. On a country road, a slow car means surveillance.
Someone is watching you.
It implies that the Doyles were being watched, that this wasn't just a random, spontaneous event. So as the sun goes down on August 12th, the stage is set with multiple potential vectors of violence.
You've got the angry brother,
The sexual predator.
the recluse.
And the stalker. It could be any of them.
And then the environment shifts. Night falls. But the heat doesn't break. The sources say it's still sweltering. The girls are on the trampoline, and they hear popping sounds.
And their reaction is so telling. So tragically childish.
They think it's fireworks.
Or a truck backfiring. They try to normalize the sound. It's a psychological defense mechanism. We just don't want to believe we're hearing gunshots in our own backyard.
But then reality sets in. The popping is rhythmic. It's too close. They realize it's gunfire. And their instinct, this is the part that just hurts to read. They run toward the house.
Of course they do. Because the house is supposed to be the sanctuary. Parents are the protectors. They assume the threat must be external, something in the fields.
But as they get closer, they realize the threat is inside. Josie sees a figure with a gun. She can't identify him in the dark, but she knows the safety of the house has been breached.
And comes the flight response. They turn and they run into the cornfield.
I want to pause on the cornfield. Because if you haven't been in a Midwestern cornfield at night, I don't think people can truly understand what a sensory nightmare that is. It is not just a field.
No, it's a monoculture.
Yeah.
It is a maze. Every single row looks identical.
Yeah.
You lose your sense of direction almost instantly.
And the corn leaves are sharp. The edges are like paper. They're like paper cuts waiting to happen. So you have these two little girls running barefoot in the dark through a landscape that is actively physically cutting them.
And the sound. or the lack of it.
Yes, the sound.
Corn muscle sound, it just absorbs it. So you can't hear where the footsteps are coming from until they're right on top of you. It creates this sensory deprivation chamber full of razor blades. It's terrifying.
And in that chaos, they're holding hands. That's their lifeline. Josie and Becky, the text says they're blood sisters,
Right.
and then the shot.
It's separation. That's the core trauma point.
Yeah.
Josie gets hit in the arm. The force of it, the chaos, the terror, the physical impact. Becky is just ripped away from her grip.
Yeah.
And suddenly, Josie is utterly alone.
She has to play dead. She buries herself in the dirt under the stalks.
It's a primal regression. It's an incredible act of survival. She moves from being a human child to being a prey animal. She suppresses the urge to cry, to scream, even to vomit from the pain. She just goes dormant.
It's a passive survival strategy,
Yeah.
and it works. She survives the night, but when she wakes up in the morning...
The silence. The cicadas have stopped.
Yeah.
The birds are quiet. Just silence.
She goes back to the house, and she finds her parents.
Executed. The mother in the bedroom, the father in Josie's own room. It's a slaughter. But the true horror for the police and for the town isn't just the bodies. It's the absence.
Ethan is gone, and Becky is gone.
Vanished. Along with Ethan's truck. This is where the town's narrative cements itself.
Right. They look at the fucker incident from that afternoon. They look at the missing truck, and they say, Ethan snapped. He killed his parents, and he took the girl.
It's the easiest story to tell. It's neat. It wraps everything up with a bow. But you, the listener, should be asking, if Ethan wanted to kill his parents in a fit of rage, why kidnap the neighbor girl?
It doesn't track.
Kidnapping suggests a different motive entirely. It suggests possession. If the goal was to possess Becky, then the parents were just obstacles.
Which implies that maybe Ethan wasn't the killer. Maybe he was an obstacle, too.
Exactly. The question we should have been asking all along is, was he the perpetrator? Or was he the first victim of the kidnapping taken right along with Becky?
This brings us to the second timeline, because while we are wondering where Becky and Ethan went, the source material gives us these harrowing fragmented entries from a girl held in a basement.
This is the basement narrative. It's non-linear, so we don't know exactly when it's happening at first, but thematically, it connects the hot violence of the cornfield to the cold violence of the present day. We have a young girl and her mother being held by a man they call father.
This is a heavy section. We need to talk about the psychology of this captivity. The girl, she talks about making paper Easter eggs to decorate the cement walls. She's coloring. She's trying to be a kid in an impossible situation.
This is what psychologists call the normalization of trauma. For a child who is either born into or raised in captivity from a very young age, the abnormal becomes normal. The basement isn't a prison to her, it's the entire world.
And the captor isn't just a captor.
The father isn't just a captor, he is God. He controls the light, the food, the temperature, the punishment. He is the sun and the moon. And the mother. She described as despondent, sickly, and she's pregnant.
There's one scene in this basement narrative that we really need to analyze. It's what the source calls the strawberry shake incident. I honestly had to put the text down for a minute after reading this part.
It's the psychological anchor of this entire section. It is the moment where the mask of the father slips completely and you see the monster underneath.
Okay, so the mother is having a miscarriage. She is hemorrhaging in the tiny bathroom. It's a clear medical emergency. And the father comes down the stairs. He's brought her a strawberry shake as if that's the solution.
And this little girl, she is frantic. She's not worried about her mother's health. Not really. She's trying to clean up the blood. Because she knows if the father sees the mess, he will get angry.
Her priority is managing his emotions.
Yes. Her mother's life is secondary to the father's mood. She's stuffing bloody towels into a trash bag.
And the father sees the bag, he sees the blood, he looks at the shake in his hand, and he dumps the strawberry shake into the bag with the bloody towels.
It was probably for the best.
That's what he says.
That's the line. It was probably for the best.
The callousness of that, the absolute void of empathy. He mixes a sweet treat with the remains of a miscarriage and carries it out like it's just garbage.
It's what we'd call a complete flattening of effect. It's sociopathic compartmentalization. To him, the medical waste from his victim and the wasted food he brought are the exact same thing. An inconvenience, a mess to be tidied.
He doesn't see the tragedy. He doesn't see the loss of life.
He just sees a stain on his floor, a problem to be erased.
And what does that teach the child who is watching all of this unfold?
It warps her moral compass beyond recognition. It teaches her that life is disposable, that empathy is a weakness, that the only thing that truly matters is keeping the environment clean and keeping the father calm.
So violence isn't something to be feared.
No. If the father can treat death like spilled milk, then violence is just a chore. It's a tool for maintaining order. And that is absolutely crucial for understanding who that girl might become.
So we have this horrific closed loop happening in the basement. And we have the open loop of missing kids from 2000. And now we fast forward 20 years to Wiley Lark in the blizzard.
And Wiley thinks she is safe because she's alone. She's avoiding her own life, her estrangement from her son Seth, her failed marriage. She is using the isolation of the farmhouse as a shield to hide from her own personal failures.
But the environment, that environmental antagonist, it turns on her. The storm hits harder than predicted, and her dog, Tass, starts barking frantically at the door.
Wiley opens it expecting, I don't know, raccoon, a stray dog.
A coyote. And instead, she finds a child, a small boy, half frozen in the snow on her porch.
This shifts the genre immediately. We go from writer in a cabin to survival thriller.
Right. But as she's thawing the boy out, as she's trying to save him, she sees the detail that shifts it again to active crime scene.
The duct tape residue.
A faint silvery outline on his upper lip.
This wasn't a kid who wandered away from a nearby farm. This is a kid who was silenced. And you have to note the boy's behavior. He's mute.
Completely silent.
Selective mutism is a very common trauma response in children. His voice has been taken from him, literally and psychologically. But the real key is when he sees Wiley's research photos, the crime scene photos of the Doyle murders.
He vomits. Violently.
He recognizes violence. It is not an abstract concept to him. It's a visceral, physical trigger.
So Wiley does what any of us would probably do in that moment, but also maybe what none of us should do. She goes out into the storm.
She has to. She has to find where he came from.
And here is where we see Wiley's rescue script kick in. She's a good person. She wants to help. She finds the wrecked truck in the bottom of the ravine, and then she finds a woman tangled in a barbed wire fence nearby.
The imagery here is so visceral. The woman is ensnared. The barbs are digging into her skin. It looks like a classic tragic accident.
And Wiley reacts like a hero. She tries to free her, but she can't. The wire's too thick. She's freezing. So she gives the woman her coat, her only real protection against the sub-zero cold, and she runs back to the barn to get tools.
And this is the critical error. And it's such a human error. Wiley sees an injury, she sees a wreck, and her brain immediately fills in the blanks. Car accident victim, I must help.
She ignores the anomalies.
She completely ignores the anomalies because they don't fit the story she's telling herself.
What anomalies are you talking about?
The fact that the woman isn't screaming for help. The fact that the boy she just rescued was clearly a victim of a crime with duct tape on his mouth. Wiley is so focused on being the hero, on saving the victim, that she fails to assess the actual threat.
She comes back with the wire cutters, and the woman is gone.
Vanished. Into a whiteout blizzard.
Now, think about that. If I'm stuck in a barbed wire fence, seriously injured, and someone says, I'll be right back with help, I'm not moving a muscle. I'm certainly not running off into a blizzard without a coat.
Unless you are running towards something you want more than your own safety, or unless you are terrified of being found by the police.
Wiley stumbles back to the house. She's confused, she's freezing, she's terrified, and then the power goes out.
And now she is in the dark. The darkness, as we learn, is Wiley's personal antagonist. She has a history of trauma associated with the dark. So now the environment has methodically stripped her of her sight, her warmth, and her communication with the outside world. She is completely isolated with a mute boy and a dog.
And then, as if on cue, the truck at the bottom of the ravine explodes, a huge fireball in the snow.
Which is very, very convenient for the antagonist, isn't it? The fire destroys all the evidence, no registration in the glove box, no license plates, no ID, it just burns away the context.
And then a sound, a new sound, a snowmobile.
Not a knock at the door, but a visitor. Randy Cutter.
The same Randy Cutter from the 2000 timeline, the cousin who was with Brock at the pond, the one who harassed Becky.
He's an adult now, her nearest neighbor. He sees the fire and comes over to investigate.
This interaction is a masterclass in mistrust. Wiley doesn't know him. She doesn't know if he's a good guy or a bad guy, so she lies to him. She hides the boy. Why does she do that?
Because she's finally realizing that she doesn't know the story. Her rescue script has failed. She's realizing that in a place like Burton, you don't automatically trust the neighbors.
He offers to help.
Right. Randy goes off to look for the missing woman, which, again, very conveniently removes the only other able-bodied man from the scene for the foreseeable future.
Leaving Wiley alone, again, She needs wood for the fire. It's getting dangerously cold. She has to go to the barn. And this forces her to leave the boy alone in the house.
It's a forced error. The cold, the environment forces her out. Environmental antagonism at its peak.
She gets to the barn. She's up in the hayloft, gathering wood. She looks out the little window with her headlamp on, and she sees a figure.
The injured woman.
Yeah.
And she isn't wandering aimlessly in the storm. She is lurching with a terrifying purpose directly toward the farmhouse.
Toward the boy.
And Wiley realizes she's stuck. She runs for the ladder, but the barn door is jammed shut or blocked from the outside. She's trapped.
She fights her way out, frantic. She's running through the deep snow, screaming at the boy through the wind to lock the door.
But the boy is just a child. He's frozen in fear at the window. He sees the woman coming. And this is the reveal. Wiley gets close enough to see it clearly in her headlamp beam. The woman is wearing Wiley's coat. But she isn't carrying a purse. She isn't holding her injured side.
She's carrying a hatchet.
A hatchet. That one detail recontextualizes everything.
Everything.
Wiley realizes in that instant that her empathy was weaponized against her. She gave her coat, her protection, to the predator. She left the door unlocked for the predator.
The woman wasn't running from the wreck to find help.
She was running to recapture the boy. The wreck was an obstacle for her, not for him.
And Wiley is locked out. She can only watch, helpless, through the window as this woman gets inside, the woman she tried to save. And she watches her grab the boy and drag him into the shadows of the house.
The sanctuary has become the trap, and the title of the source material, The Overnight Guest, suddenly takes on a very literal, very violent meaning.
So let's pull back and look at the connections here, because we have 3 distinct timelines that have just crashed into each other in that farmhouse kitchen. You've got the Doyles, the basement, and now the siege.
The overarching thematic connection is the cycle of violence. In the year 2000, the violence was hot, loud, and open. It was shotguns and cornfields.
And in the present, the violence is cold, silent, and enclosed. It's hatchets and blizzards. The farmhouse it absorbs all of it.
It's a vessel for pain.
Let's revisit Ethan Doyle. Because for 20 years, the town, the narrative, has blamed him. But looking at the basement narrative now, if we assume that the mother in the basement is Becky Allen,
Which seems like a very strong possibility.
then the father is the key to everything. If the father is the one who kept Becky captive all these years, is it Ethan?
It's possible. But you have to ask yourself, does Ethan fit the profile of someone who would keep a girl in a basement for 2 decades, meticulously controlling her, raising a child in that environment?
That requires a level of discipline and a cold, calculated sociopathy that goes way beyond teenage rage. Ethan was explosive. The father is methodical. He's a controller.
It feels different. It feels like someone who has done this before. Or at the very least, someone who has been watching for a long, long time.
Like someone in a white truck. Or a neighbor who knows the layout of the land, who knows when people are home and when they're not.
Exactly. The ambiguity is the point. The monster might not have been the obvious one.
And what about the woman with the hatchet, the victim from the fence? If she is the predator, who is she?
This is the most disturbing implication in the entire text. We know there was a child in the basement, a girl. If that girl was born in, say, 2001 to a captive Becky Allen,
She would be in her early 20s today.
she'd be about the same age as the woman Wiley found by the truck.
Wait, so you're saying you're saying the woman with the hatchet could be the child from the basement, the one who made the paper Easter eggs?
It's a very strong possibility. And think about the psychological implications of that. If you were raised in a basement, taught that violence is a chore, taught that the outside world is dangerous, and the only safety is with family, and then you get out, what do you become?
Do you become a victim, or do you become a reflection of your captor?
You become the father. You model what you know.
So her hunting the boy isn't just kidnapping.
No. From her warped perspective, it's retrieving her property, it's restoring order, it's repeating the only cycle she has ever known.
And the bill.
The next generation of guests.
That's incredibly dark. But it fits. It fits the idea of secrets being buried under the ground and then growing into something monstrous.
It brings us right back to the environment. The cornfield hid the murders in 2000. The basement hid the captivity for 20 years. The blizzard tried to hide the retrieval of the boy. But Wiley, by being there, she broke the seal.
She stumbled into the nest. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with a final provocation. We always have this idea that small towns are safe because everyone knows everyone.
Right, the familiar refrain.
But in Burden, that familiarity was the camouflage. That's what allowed the horror to fester.
Exactly. You have to ask, how do two teenagers vanish from a town where everyone knows whose truck is whose? How does a white truck stalk a girl twice in one day without anyone intervening or even noting it as strange?
How does a basement prison exist for 20 years without a meter reader, a neighbor, or a delivery driver noticing that something is fundamentally wrong with that house?
Complicity isn't always active. Sometimes it's just tuning your head because you don't want to see what's in your neighbor's yard.
Or what's in their basement? The snow is melting in Burden, and the past is coming for everyone.
And it's bringing a hatchet?
Indeed it is. Thank you for listening to this deep dive. It's a chilling reminder that sometimes the scariest thing isn't what's lurking in the dark. It's what's right in front of you, hidden in plain sight. We'll see you next time.